Did you know your brain could be quietly sabotaging your business decisions? Hey everyone, it's James Valentine here, and in today's video we'll be breaking down 10 of the most common cognitive biases entrepreneurs face and how to overcome them to make smarter, more confident decisions. Let's jump into it. Number 1 is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when we only focus on the information that supports what we already believe, and therefore ignoring anything that challenges it. For example, you might prioritize feedback from customers who love your product but dismiss criticism. To combat this, you want to seek out opposing viewpoints and regularly survey customers for unexpected trends. Number 2 is anchoring bias. Anchoring bias is when you rely too heavily on the first bit of information you receive. For example, imagine a consultant charges $10,000 for their service. You might think that's the benchmark, even if better options exist. To avoid this, gather multiple data points and set your own benchmark first. Number 3 is availability heuristic. This bias leads us to judge situations with examples that come easily to mind. If you hear about a certain business failing, you might assume that the strategy actually doesn't work. Instead, base decisions on broader data and trends and not isolated stories. Number 4 is sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy makes us stick with something because of the time and money we've invested in it, even when it's failing. For instance, you might keep investing time and money into a feature of your product, even when users don't actually want it, but you've already spent months developing it. Focus on future outcomes and not past investments. You want to set clear exit criteria up front. Number 5 is overconfidence bias. Overconfidence bias is overestimating our abilities and assuming our predictions are always correct. For example, launching a product without market validation because you just know it will succeed. Stay grounded by seeking external feedback, maybe from people who have had success in that idea or that product. And then imagine how your idea might fail before you act. You can sit down and ask, if this idea was to fail, what would be the reason why? Number 6 is herd mentality. Herd mentality happens when we blindly follow others without actually thinking for ourselves. For instance, you might copy a competitor's strategy without actually understanding why it works. What you want to do instead is take what does work, but then adapt it to your business's strengths. Number 7 is recency bias. Recency bias leads us to give more weight to recent events rather than the long-term ones. If one bad week of sales causes you to change your strategy, then it could be this bias at play. Instead, look at the data over longer periods and recognize trends to inform your decisions. For example, with a sales one, if you're doing great over 6 months and you just have one bad week, you just want to zoom out and look at the overall picture. Number 8 is survivorship bias. Survivorship bias occurs when we only focus on successes and not the failures. For example, assuming all entrepreneurs succeed because they dropped out of school because you've only ever heard success stories. You want to study both wins and losses to get a balanced perspective of what works and why. Number 9 is loss aversion. Loss aversion is the fear of losing something, which often outweighs the excitement of potential gains. You might avoid launching that new feature or product in the fear that it might fail. But on the flip side, it could really transform your business. You want to reframe loss as opportunities to learn, and to mitigate the fear of potential failure, you want to start small. Maybe test it out to a small audience first before going big. And number 10 is the halo effect. The halo effect lets us make one positive trait overshadow everything else. For example, you might hire someone who's charismatic and well-spoken, but they lack the technical knowledge to actually do the job. You want to use structured evaluations and separate personal impressions from measurable criteria to avoid this trap. So there we have it. There's 10 cognitive biases that affect everything from customer relationships and decision making. By recognizing these 10 biases, you can stay objective, make better decisions, and set your business up for long-term success. If that's been helpful to you, please drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more insights, and I'll see you in the next video.